Nathan Drake returns in another adventure, and this one is regarded as one of the best out of the Uncharted trilogy. But is it really? Well, I don't know, I haven't played the third one yet.
When I bought my PlayStation 3, it came with Uncharted 3, and along with the Sly Collection and Sly 4, I picked up the Greatest Hits 2-pack set that had Uncharted 1 and 2. I didn't even know Uncharted 2 existed until I saw a friend of mine on Facebook took a picture of herself with the Uncharted 3 Collector's Edition. Yeah, that's how out of the loop I was. I didn't know Uncharted 2 existed until Uncharted 3 came out. The funny thing is, it's not like Ratchet & Clank Into the Nexus where it was only mentioned a few times in passing and released under the radar. This is Uncharted, Sony's moneymaker. I have no idea how I missed the face raping of advertising.
Better late than never. Oh.
When Uncharted 2 was announced, the trailer showed Nathan Drake wandering through the snow and it was done in real time, using the game's engine. Uncharted 2 uses all 25 gigs of space on the Blu-ray disc and uses anywhere from 90 to 100% of the PlayStation 3's power, resulting in no processor being idle because there was no job for it. Combined with the newly revamped version of the first Uncharted's game engine, it allowed for very realistic moving environments that move in real time, more realistic textures, and more realistic animations. And it paid off. There's times where the characters look real and move very realistic. There's times where I had to rub my eyes and remind myself that I was playing a game and not watching a movie.
The game does do a good job of snapping you back into reality. Mostly in the form of Drake getting run over by a tank when it busts through a wall.
The game is very cinematic, more so than the first, really giving that movie feel. But that seemed to be the thing for the 7th generation, trying to make games more like movies. The 6th only toyed with it a few times with games like Metal Gear Solid 3. One of my college teachers for animation and game design had said that if you wanted to get into movies, do games first, and with games like this, I'm inclined to agree. There's a lot of really good camera shots that play well with different camera angles. But overall, the graphics are amazing and improve upon the first games, which were already very good at the time. The music is very enjoyable, it's action-orientated when it needs to be, and plays well with the atmosphere when wandering around.
It's a really good presentation. Much better than the first, and this game can be used as an example for the R games art debate.
The controls have been improved upon. In the first game, Drake felt kinda stiff, but here it's a lot more natural and I found myself easily moving from platform to platform. However, I did find that I had to wrestle with the camera in a few instances, because sometimes it would zoom all the way into Drake's head. Although when that happened, it was pretty rare. The combat has also been improved. The weapons all do a reasonable amount of damage. In my review of the first game, I had said that the more ammo a weapon held, the less damage it does, and while the less ammo it held, the more it did. This has been alleviated here. Assault rifles do a sufficient amount of damage when compared to the predecessor, but of course there's weapons where less ammo means the more powerful they are, like shotguns and high caliber handguns.
Most of the weapons from the first game make a return, and while I found myself using guns most of the time, I actually had a lot more fun with the stealth and melee sections.
Melee combat has been greatly improved. You use square to attack and triangle to dodge. In the first, square was a light punch and triangle was a heavy one, and you'd use the two buttons to deliver combos. But the new melee system is fun to use and gives a better feeling as to how hand-to-hand fighting works. The stealth elements are fun too, sneaking around and grabbing and snapping someone's neck. And it's such a realistic crunching sound that I cringe every time I hear it. Like in the previous game, your partner AI can't shoot at all. Often missing except for one section where Sully is actually a good sniper, but he really doesn't do much in the situation. But Elena and Chloe, I'd rather have them not be there as they got in my way most of the time.
You know the partner AI is pretty bad when Drake actually pushes the character aside and yells at them to move. And that's not a joke either, that actually happens.
The enemy AI is also a lot better, adding some real challenge as they will try to distract you while another will come up from behind and blow your head off. And they stay behind cover a lot more and will move around so they pop up in a different spot. And the fights are nowhere near as dragged out as they were in the last game. I'm not 30 minutes into a fight and wondering when it's going to end because the game sends waves after waves of enemies at you. And there's more checkpoints even in mid-battle, which makes the game feel a lot more balanced. Now the story is another one of those globe-trotting adventures after a mystical artifact. What I like that Uncharted does is that it takes real myths and takes you to those places to find objects in question instead of making things up like how the PlayStation 1 Tomb Raider games made up mythical artifacts.
It really does give you that Indiana Jones feeling, allowing you to experience a harrowing adventure without risking your life. You get to risk Drake's life instead.
Of course, Nathan Drake returns, Victor Sullivan makes a cameo in a section, and Elena comes around at the halfway point. If you want to avoid spoilers, skip to this part in the review. The game starts off with Drake waking up on a train and badly wounded. He gets out of the train, which is hanging off of a cliff, and is on the side of a snow-covered mountain. In a flashback, two new characters come in. Harry Flynn, who has traitor written all over his face, and Chloe Fraser, who is obviously the femme fatale type of character who acts as a double agent throughout the story. Because, well, that's a stereotype. Flynn shows Drake that Marco Polo found Shambhala, a hidden city somewhere in Asia where the Chintamani stone is located. Flynn and Drake break into a museum, find a map, and Flynn double-crosses Drake and leaves him to be arrested. Sullivan and Chloe get Drake out of jail, and it's revealed that Flynn is working for some guy called Lazarevic, who wants to start a new war and is after the Chintamani stone, as it's revealed that a lot of warlords in the past had a piece of it and it gave them great power. Drake manages to stay one step ahead of Lazarevic at all times, meeting up with Elena, who's doing a news report on him. Drake brings them along and they find a temple that holds the location of Shambhala. At this point, the bad guy has caught up to Drake, takes Chloe, and tries to kill Drake and Elena, but they escape.
We're also introduced to Jeff, Elena's cameraman, but there's no point of talking about him because he's wearing a red shirt.
Drake and Elena catch up to Lazarevic to save Chloe, who has been taken onto a train. Chloe says she doesn't want to go with Drake as she's tired of him trying to be the hero. Flynn shoots Drake, but he runs to the other side of the train car and shoots a propane tank, causing it to separate from the main section and also derail. And now we're back to the present. Yeah, half of this game is a flashback. Drake is then rescued and brought to a small town. Elena is there and Drake is taken to a guy named Schaefer, who encourages Drake to find his lost expedition after Drake says he's given up. Drake finds the expedition and they were all shot. Schaefer killed them to protect the Chintamani stone. Drake also gets attacked by strange creatures and gets back to the village that's being invaded by Lazarevic.
One thing that bothered me was, how did this bad guy know to go to that village, and how did he know to kidnap Schaefer? I mean, I think that's a pretty legit question.
Drake goes to save Schaefer, but he gets there too late and Schaefer dies. Drake catches up with Chloe and finds and unlocks the entrance to Shambhala. Lazarevic captures Drake and forces him to unlock the door. They get into the city but are attacked by strange creatures again, which are actually mutated humans in Yeti suits. Drake, Elena, and Chloe escape and are on a mission to destroy the Chintamani stone so that Lazarevic doesn't get it. The stone is actually a highly explosive resin that is formed from the blue sap, and drinking the sap makes the person nearly invincible, which explains the mutants. Lazarevic drinks the sap and Drake manages to defeat him by making the resin explode, and the mutants kill Lazarevic.
Now, I really like this story, but I really do get this feeling of deja vu.
In Uncharted, you're going after, at first, the city of El Dorado. In Uncharted 2, you're going after the city of Shambhala. So there's two mystical cities in the games. The difference in the first game happens shortly after El Dorado is revealed to be a golden statue, so that's different enough, but in both games you're going after a mystical artifact. Nothing wrong with that, as mystical artifacts are the premise of the series. The similarities between the two artifacts are kind of the same. When the golden statues open, spores come out that mutate the people into monsters who breathe it in. The blue sap turns the drinker into an invincible monster. Both games have a monster whose origins are connected to the artifact, and both have a bad guy that wants to use the artifact for their own similar yet different reasons, both wanting to use the artifact as a weapon of war.
While the stories from both games share some similarities, they are different enough to give you a different experience, and the one in this game is a lot better.
Uncharted 2's story I found to be more entertaining and had better character development. However, I wish Drake was more witty in this game. In the first game, he usually has a sarcastic quip to the bad guy when they meet, and when they're getting closer to the goal, he has an almost childlike enthusiasm about it, regardless of the situation he's in. But he was serious when he really needed to be. In this game, Drake is serious most of the time and doesn't have that enthusiasm he had before. It's underplayed, but I suppose you could say that Drake was double-crossed and left to rot in jail in the beginning of the game, so he's probably pretty angry about that. Sullivan is the same, and the relationship between Elena and Drake is fleshed out more.
I feel that Drake and Chloe work a lot better as a team, because Elena comes off as that type of person that's just being dragged around against their own will, but at the same time, she's willingly following Drake.
With Chloe, she has Drake's sense of adventure and is pretty much a female version of Drake. Elena seems like she's forcing herself to go along with Drake. Like, subconsciously she doesn't want to go, but goes anyway. I think it's her tone of voice and facial expressions that make her come off that way, and I don't really see her as a good romantic interest for Drake. Chloe fits that part better, but she's too unpredictable. But I subscribe to the notion that Drake doesn't need a girlfriend because he's just too awesome. In the end, I really enjoyed this game. It's better than the first from all aspects and is a work of art. There's quite a bit of content available, and exploring for treasures is fun. I'm sure it was fun in the first game, but this one really captured my attention enough to want to go and get everything I could.
In my opinion, this is probably Naughty Dog's best work, but who knows, that might change next month when I review Uncharted 3.